What is up, my aesthetic boys? It's Fresh, back with another storytime video. This is another subreddit that I've gotten quite a few requests for, so I finally made a PettyRevenge episode. Hope you guys like it. I'm leaning on a stranger because he moved the armrest. So it's the morning commute and my wife and I are on the train on our way to work. We've managed to find a table seat where we can sit opposite one another to chat. We both have to ask the occupants of the other two seats to move their bags, which is annoying but fine. So I sit next to a chap in his 40s or so and pop down the armrest in between us. I dress my elbows when I sit on the train. It slightly brushed past his arm on the way down. Before we've set off, I leaned forward to tell my wife something, and when I lean back, this chap has moved the armrest back up, which is ridiculous. Obviously, he hates having comfortable elbows. Of course, I'm far too British to actually say anything, or even to just move the armrest back. So I do the next best thing, and begin resting my elbow on his arm. Of course, he's far too British to say anything in return and has resigned to slowly leaning away from me as best he can. However, the more he leans away, the more I lean towards. My wife just WhatsApped me telling me I'm incredibly petty. I don't care. Take away my armrest, you can become my armrest. This is one of the best cases of petty revenge because he full well knows that this man can do nothing about it. He had the option of having the elbow rest down, and if the man decided to pick it up, well, what happens next is entirely on his shoulders, or arm rather. I don't care how nice you keep your waist-long hair, I don't want it on my desk. When I was in high school, there was this girl who always flipped her super long-ass hair on my desk. The first time, I kinda subtly brushed it off, thinking it was an accident and not wanting to embarrass her. Instead, she shouted at me for touching her hair, which just infuriated me. Lucky me though, I had ceramics right before that class and regularly would bring what I was working on to other classes to continue working on it. My plotting began. So one day I brought in a piece of pottery I'd been painting, a total throwaway piece that I'd coated it in red paint, which isn't even how you're supposed to do it. And when she threw her hair on my desk, it got covered in red paint, and I gasped super loud and over dramatically. She tried to get mad at me, but before she could tell the teacher how I'd ruined her hair, I shouted that she'd ruined my pottery for ceramics because she regularly threw her ponytail around. Instead of me being in trouble, she got in trouble and moved seats, and I felt so damn good about it. Intentional sabotage as it may have been, you know how the saying goes, the first person to complain gets to control the narrative, and there may be no better example than red paint and waist-long hair. University bookstore tries to use me. I took an economics class in 2014 and the version of the book we needed was outdated. Our professor said that she chose that version because it was available and about half the price of the newest version. Our bookstore carried it for about $300 and it was available online for about $20. My books were paid for by the VA from benefits of the Army service, and I had to use a voucher system and purchase from the bookstore if the needed text was available there, so I did. At the end of the semester, I went to sell it back. I did this every semester since I could make a few bucks off them rather than let them rot in my house somewhere. I was offered a penny. Yes, 1 cent because the book was outdated. Now, it's not the kid's fault, he was just scanning the barcode and letting the computer pull the buyback price. I knew they were going to turn around and sell it used for $250. Obviously, I was not going to let a business use me just to overcharge the hell out of the next student. I was so pissed that I held onto the book over the summer break, and then when the bookstore opened again for the fall semester, I got my revenge. I waited near the bookstore for a few hours and handed it to the first person I saw buying the book. I told them they could have it for free and to please try and hand it off to someone else next semester if possible, as the bookstore was only going to give them a penny for it. They handed me $20, thanked me, and told me to get some lunch. This is some wholesome petty revenge right here, folks. She's not only getting back against the university, but trying to help out future students to also not get screwed by a university significantly overcharging for a used book. And as an economics student who was asked to buy a $400 textbook last semester, boy do I sympathize. Return your shopping cart. This was 10 plus years ago. I had just traded in for a newer car and my girlfriend was not happy because she already drove a worse car than I did. My transmission was starting to slip though, so I traded it in. Anyways, she's pissed and says I have to drive everywhere we go until we can get her a newer car. No problem, love this car, drive any day. Few days forward, we head to the grocery store for something small. It's crazy busy, so I dropped her off at the front door, loop around, and found a spot surprisingly close to the front of the store. Nice, I'll just wait for her to come out. The lady parked to my right, pulls her cart up, and stows her things in her trunk. She's got that soccer mom with bolt-on titty pencil skirt look going, so I'm just kind of spectating through my rear view and side passenger mirror. Then, this Mary Kay Sellin woman just leaves her cart behind my car. I get out, give an 11-second stare at her in the driver's seat. 12 Mississippi. She's on the phone just babbling away. I walk to the back of my car and push her cart behind her car. Walk back to my driver's side and give her another look. Nothing. Jump back in and kept my chin in my right shoulder. Watching, waiting, knowing. She's still on the phone and throws that Tahoe in reverse. Man, I am giggling. She checks her rear view, but that cart's tucked up her ass. Hits the gas and slam, crash, what was that? Phone in hand, she jumps out with a look of, God, don't be a baby stroller fear in her face. She runs to the back of her car and in her phone she says, oh, thank God, it was just my card. This history repeats itself, asking for it, just begging to be effed with. The lady picks it up and puts it behind my car again. Go time. Let's do it. I really wanted to wait for her to get back in her car and put the cart behind her again, but I was seeing red, so I called her out. The car I just bought was an 04 GTO. I fire it up, roll down the window, give a heavy rev and lean over the passenger seat. Hey, am I good to back up? No kids or nothing back there? She looks at her cart, checks back to me. I'm wearing a gotcha smirk on my face. She looks at her cart again and says, you asshole, did you put that behind my car? I'm grinning ear to ear now. Hey asshole, did you put that behind my car? She jumps in, backs up, and leaves with the cart still behind my car. The pettiest of petty revenges because it literally accomplishes nothing except really pissing off the woman. I don't think she's gonna change her habits either, but it makes for a damn entertaining story, so thank you for that, OP. I like my hair this color. This is my grandma's story from when she was in her early teens. She had decided to try out some washable hair coloring just for the fun of it. After she had thoroughly coated her hair with the stuff and dried it off, she went to take a look in the mirror. It was horrible. What was supposed to be a subtle burgundy red color turned out to be an awful, not so subtle bright orange. She quickly ran to go and wash it out, but on her way to do so, her dad had stopped her. He instantly began berating her, telling her that she looked horrible and ugly, that she needed to go and wash it out right away because the color was shameful. This didn't sit well with my grandma, so instead of going to wash it out like she had initially planned, she refused, insisting that she loved the color and thought it suited her. Of course, her dad was livid about this, but she didn't care. She kept her hair like that for nearly a month, an entire freaking month of unwarranted stares and remarks. She hated every second of it and wanted nothing more than to wash out the clown-like coloring, but she refused to. She would keep it as long as she could, all for the sake of pissing off her dad. You know, hair coloring might seem like a weird hill to die on in this scenario, but nothing pisses me off more than someone actively telling me to do something I was already planning on doing. It's insulting in a way. Fish story. Years ago, I was sitting outside of a coffee shop chatting on a beautiful day. My younger brother happened to work at this establishment as a barista and waiter. As I was talking, he came up to our table with a large pitcher of water and asked if we needed any refills. Then he proceeded to dump this vat of frigid liquid over my head. This was a completely unprovoked attack. No offense had been committed, no wrong done. I said nothing and just sat there soaked with ice cubes inside my shirt and my clothes soaked. 2 weeks later, I purchased 1.27 pounds of fresh fish from the market in a wrapped styrofoam package. I went to my brother's roommate's place of business, a bike shop, and mentioned that I had a package for my brother that I needed to drop off. He gave me his key to their apartment, which was across the street. After entering the apartment, I pulled a fork from the kitchen drawer and pierced the fish container repeatedly. I then hid this container in my poor brother's room. Weeks went by, both roommates accusing each other of unsanitary habits before the putrid fish was found. Petty revenge is the best revenge. This is some aggressive petty revenge, to say the least. I hope that she had an alibi of some sort, a fake package that she could put in the room as well, so that if the roommate suggested to this sibling that a package had been dropped off, that they wouldn't have been looking for anything suspicious. But damn, I can't imagine how long it took for that nasty, nasty rotting fish smell to get out of that dude's room. Reading my newspaper without asking? Good luck with that. Many years ago, I worked in an office with L-shaped desks joined at the short edge into a sort of square-bottomed U. In general, our terminals were in the corners, so you would sit almost with your back to your podmate. Out of a group of 4 of us in one area, 3 would buy a daily newspaper, the 4th would just do the rounds and read everyone else's. I would have no problem with that were it not that he would never ask. Every morning around 10 a.m. he would wheel himself, office chair, not wheelchair, over to me and make some generic small talk. "And how are we this morning?" before making some kind of, "well, let's see what's going on in the world today" comment and grabbing the paper. Never asked, just some kind of comment like that, then taking it. It bothered me slightly. It wouldn't hurt even if he were just to say, "mind if I?" That would have been fine. For a while I let it go, but it bothered me more and more, so I would put the paper further away out of his reach after I read it to try and elicit some kind of politeness. Totally passive aggressive, but whatever. It got to a point where the newspaper was pretty much behind my monitor back in the days of CRT monitors, and yet instead of asking, he would practically lean on my shoulder to be able to reach it. After a while, one of my colleagues said something to him, something blunt, involving a word rhyming with blunt. From that point, he stopped reading them during the day. However, if there were any left overnight, he would go so far as to fish them out of the desk bins and read them the following morning, all to avoid just a polite few words. Once I realized he was still reading the papers we left behind the following morning, I hatched a petty plan. I'm all about the long game. I saved a week's worth of newspapers for about 6 months in my drawers. Then, when I felt the time was right, one day after he had left for the afternoon, I replaced the cover of one of the 6-month-old papers with the current days, disposed of the rest of the current paper, and left the old news with the new cover on the desk overnight. After 2 days, he never touched anyone's paper again. Oh man, this guy's dedication is admirable to say the least. Since petty revenge is often about short-term and immediate gratification, you don't really get these long game kind of revenge plots, but this dude carried it out impeccably. Why bother getting HR involved in an office dispute when you can pull one over on the guy? Thank you to everyone who watched this video. Be sure to subscribe for more daily Reddit content. Drop a like if you liked the video, and I will see you all tomorrow.